Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're joining us from across the country. My name is Michael Ziegler with Nanda Journeys, and I'm going to be your host for this great conversation on nursing and healthcare on our delegation to Spain. Before we get to our great conversation with my two co-hosts, I wanted to just mention a little bit of housekeeping here. Everyone on the webinar is muted today, so that means if you have questions, we absolutely want to hear them. You'll just have to type them into that chat on the right. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have throughout the tour or throughout the journey, virtual journey, I should say, and we'll have time to get to them at least through the conversation or at least at the very end of the conversation. Also, please feel free to click any of those emojis on the bottom if you're hearing something you like. We'd love to get your feedback through there as well. If I say something funny, or Nicholas says something funny or Carol says something funny, click on those emojis to show us that you're enjoying the conversation as well. And last but not least, this conversation is being recorded. So if you have to step away for other things you need to do, or if you have a travel a journey a host or a journey companion, that's what I was looking for, that wants to join you and they can't make it today, please know that we'll be sending this out to everyone so that way you can share this with them as well. So without further ado, let's start talking about our amazing delegation to Spain. Before we talk about Spain, I'd like to hand the microphone over to my friend and coworker, Nicola. Nicola is a founder of Nanda Journeys and the current owner of Nanda Journeys. Nicola, thank you so much for joining me. We get to do one of our favorite things, which is talk about travel. And so let's talk about travel. But first, tell us a little bit about Nanda Journeys for those that might not be familiar.
Thank you, Michael. Of course, one of my favorite things to do is always talk about our international journeys and speak with our leaders and get to present these amazing opportunities. So welcome, everybody. Whether you are a past Nanda traveler, hi, Sandy, I know you're here. We just got back from Colombia, which was amazing. Whether you're a past traveler, a considering traveler, or somebody who's just interested in this style of travel, welcome to the Nanda family. That's how we operate here. We operate as family. We're friends, we're colleagues, we're comrades, and we like to really create that sense of camaraderie, both while you're considering joining this journey, throughout the journey, and afterwards. So welcome to the Nanda family. I started Nanda Journeys in 2015 after a lifelong career since the grand old age of 17, working for a travel company in the United Kingdom. And I worked for a wonderful company called People to People Ambassador Programs, which is where Carol and I became connected. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But they closed, and it was a tragedy. And I just couldn't think of doing any other kind of travel than this very people-centric learning opportunities, traveling the world, engaging with people, and making a difference for our travelers, but more importantly for me, at least, is the impact that we have on other people when we travel. So we like to do things a little bit differently at Nanda Journeys, and welcome to the family. Come join us. So the Nanda way, that's a term I've come to love, but it wasn't one that we designed together. It was actually brought to us by wonderful leaders like Dr. Carol Huston, who you'll hear from here shortly, our guides, people that traveled with us. They kept talking about the Nanda way, and we only thought about it in terms of just doing what we do. But the Nanda way is a coined phrase now that is actually at the heart of what we do when we're designing our programs. And we try and make things very authentic. From this conversation we're having today to the experience you have when you're traveling, we want everything to be with integrity, honesty, and authenticity. That's the way we appreciate each other and the world in a more heart-centered way that has impact, right? It's authenticity is important to us. So all of our programs are designed bespoke. We don't have a catalog or a brochure, and that's because we like to work with people like Dr. Carol Huston, who I'm excited to get to introduce to you here in a second, to make sure that we're designing a program that really aligns with her passions, the passions of the people we think that might join this journey, and it makes it fun and interesting. It's really easy sometimes to create a cookie cutter itinerary that can become really blasé and boring, and we really don't like that at Nanda. So welcome to the Nanda way.
Yes, and the Nanda way, what I love about that story, because I've heard it so many times, is the fact that it has been organic, right? It's something that
Mhm.
was brought to
Yeah.
you, which means that people experience the Nanda way on the journey, and this journey is no exception. And I think one of the best things about the Nanda way that makes Nanda so unique is their hosts. And this
Mhm.
journey is no exception to that, as I always say. Our host this time is Dr. Carol Huston. Tell us a little bit about our journey host. I know this isn't the first time you're working together, so tell us a little bit about your experience, and then I know we like to talk, but we'll give Carol a chance to talk as well.
I know. Well, it's really it's a privilege and an honor to work with people like Carol. Carol is a very preeminent leader in the healthcare field. I know that she's sought out by many people in the industry across all gamuts of leadership within nursing and healthcare. She's authored 7 books, I believe, and many iterations of those books on leadership and management within the healthcare industry. She's a past president of Sigma Theta Tau. So I would love for Carol to tell us a little bit about that. So people joining the webinar today, Carol, come join us and talk to us about your amazing experience in this healthcare field. I know you've traveled extensively, but tell us a couple of things you're really proud of in this amazing career that you've had.
Thank you, Nicola. Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet all of you virtually. Excuse me. I am so fortunate in having been able to travel the world globally. I think for me personally, one of my biggest goals was always to become a better global citizen. And I think that I recognized early on that one of the ways I could do that was by traveling and better understanding and looking for both commonalities and differences in the people that I met around the world. So my international travels actually began when I was 17 years old, and I spent time in Ecuador as an exchange student. But I think most of my international travel probably occurred during my role as the president of Sigma Theta Tau International. And for those of you who are not familiar with this organization, it is an organization that really recognizes excellence in nursing, whether it be clinical practice or academics or research or whatever it might be. But as a result of that experience, I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time and travel with interprofessional groups around the world. And we have used our time together to talk about common problems in healthcare, to collaborate about possible solutions, but really just to learn more about the healthcare world and how it might be different. So I have had the opportunity with both the People to People Ambassador Program and NANDA to lead 10 healthcare delegations. And sometimes people have asked me, well, which one was your favorite? Well, all of them. Each and every one of them is so different. The delegations that I've had the opportunity to lead have varied anywhere from, I think, 6 to 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
And the size of the delegation, of course, dictates a lot about the kinds of opportunities we have for learning. But no matter what size, I have just found NANDA to be such a first-class organization. And the opportunities that it provides every participant in terms of individualized learning and an opportunity to meet their own personal learning objectives that every delegate gets to identify. It has just made it one of the most rewarding collaborations I've had in my life.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love what you talk about the individual learning, because you and I and Deborah, who are wonderful Nanda family, could not travel without. She's an integral part of the team. But we spend a lot of time before we even put the itinerary together designing the professional purpose statement. So talk to us a little bit about how important that is to determine those learning outcomes, and how do we collaborate together to make sure that everybody that chooses to join this program identifies their learning objectives, and how do we mold that to make sure it works for everybody, because you've had direct experience of that.
I think it's always important. We try to put excuse me, we try to put together some kind of an outline of what a typical delegation experience might look like. Excuse me, I've got to grab a drink here. But it really is a skeleton because we want every delegate to be able to identify what are their own personal learning goals or objectives for the trip. For example, in a professional or healthcare delegation, we typically would visit an acute care hospital, perhaps, and I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Perhaps some kind of outpatient clinic. We have gone to orphanages. We've gone to specialty hospitals like mental health hospitals or maternity hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
We've been to elder and adult daycare centers. Pretty much across the spectrum of healthcare. We've also had the opportunity to visit medical schools and nursing schools. And I think that depending upon who ends up on the delegation, what their individual learning needs are, and the skeleton that we've put together in terms of global learning objectives, we really are able to tailor trips for each individual delegate so that they can have their needs met.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So we have those pillars that we design the program around, and we always try and go to a learning kind of hospital or medical facility. We try and also get an overview of what the medical system and the healthcare infrastructure is like for public and private access, and really try and get that hands-on experience. But for those people that haven't joined us before, as we get further along in the journey together, we'll invite you to submit your professional bio and also your learning objectives. So as we start to finalize the itinerary about 3-4 months before we actually take the journey, we can reach out to people and align the conversation and the topics to the delegation and the framework of the delegation that we have on board. And whilst you referenced the 50 people, Carol, we don't do that at NANDA anymore.
I know.
No, but I love that you did that in the past and we learned from it together. We try and keep these 20 or less so that it's intimate for everybody. And that's one of the things that I really love about working together and creating that personal relationship.
Absolutely. And I mean, this journey has everything that we've talked about. It has those professional experiences, the continuing education, building that network, the peer-to-peer engagement, not only amongst the peers that you're traveling with, but the peers that you're meeting overseas, and providing that unique insight that you might not necessarily get while you're, in your own practice or doing your own thing in your career without traveling. Travel brings that perspective. And then also getting a chance to experience that culture. Understanding the culture is a huge part of travel and one of the best things about traveling the world. So talking about our delegation to Spain, we are talking May 24th to June 1st, 2025. This is a 9-day, 7-night itinerary with an 8th night being flying overseas into Spain, considering 15 meals, include 7 breakfasts, 3 lunches, and 5 dinners. Our first night is going to be that overnight flight. Where we land in Madrid. When we land in Madrid, we'll spend 2 evenings in the beginning in Madrid before going over to Vitoria. We'll spend 4 evenings in northern Spain in Vitoria. And then on the day 8, we'll come back. We'll spend our final evening in Madrid before flying home on day 9. So this itinerary itself is an amazing journey. It always starts with an overnight flight whenever you're going into Europe. So that overnight flight can sometimes give you, can sometimes mess up your internal clock. So we don't get out there and go running around and going on tour. We go on a nice leisurely walking tour the minute we arrive in Madrid. So it gives you a chance to experience what Madrid has to offer. So during that downtime, during that time on your own, you can kind of experience the city on your own. You know where things are located. You've already gotten your bearings about you. Before our first evening, which I think is one of the best nights of any journey that you go on, which is our welcome dinner. Everybody's a little tired, but you're getting to know each other. And I always mention, like, the first night, it's hard to get people talking, and that welcome dinner really starts that conversation. And by the end of the tour, it's hard to get them to stop talking because you need to tell them what you're going to do next. And it all starts with this welcome dinner. Carol, tell me a little bit about what your experience has been at the welcome dinner and why it's such a pivotal point in any new professional development journey.
The welcome dinner is an amazing opportunity for everybody to get together and to kind of learn a little bit more, first of all, about each other. Oftentimes we'll do some self-introductions. We'll talk a little bit more about the trip. We do some of the little housekeeping details, talk about things like the journal. One of the most important things that I think I always do as a part of being a delegation leader is to create a journal of our trip. And I'm a writer, so this is something pretty easy to me. And I've never asked Nicola, but I'm sure my journals are 10 times longer than anybody else's. But it's kind of just capturing what we've learned, what insights we've gained, what are things that delegates have identified that they want to do when they return, or, and this journal is something that all the delegates have the opportunity to contribute to, and we share photos. So we talk about all of that at the welcome dinner. How are we going to connect on this trip? What are each of our goals, a little bit about ourselves, what the itinerary will look like, answer questions, and then how we'll plan to connect after. And I think it's so important and so helpful. Sometimes delegates will have the opportunity to meet at the departure airport, and some of those conversations already begin before we ever leave the ground. But this is a more formalized opportunity, and everybody's tired and everybody's excited, and it just lays the groundwork for the rest of the delegation. And I can truly say that there have been very few delegations where it has not been just the most amazing cohesive group working together, being collaborative and cooperative.
I agree. And it's a mission to keep everybody up till 9.
Yes, it is.
It's good to get back into the swing of things, right? You don't want to go to bed too early. This welcome dinner keeps you awake at least. But I know that I don't want to talk through the whole entire itinerary. I mean, we're talking to the two people that spent the most time developing the itinerary, designing it. So day 3, we finally get into some of our professional engagement. Nicola, tell us a little bit about what that professional engagement is. And Carol, I would love your insight in regards to some of your experience on professional engagement tours in the past. So Nicola, tell us a little bit about what's in store for us on day 3.
Yeah, well, the learning opportunities are so significant. We had so many things to choose from in this itinerary. That's always our biggest challenge, is trying to dial it down into what is going to be the most impactful. But we decided that this particular hospital, La Paz University Hospital in Madrid, would be a great jumping off point, because it's a really well-respected hospital, and it's a learning hospital as well. It has an associated medical learning facility. So we felt it would be a really good introduction there to get a broad overstroke view of what does the healthcare system look like in Spain, because it's quite different from the United States. There is that national health service, so there is either universal healthcare, but as with any universal healthcare program, it has its strengths and it has its weaknesses, and this is an opportunity for everybody to have a conversation and be introduced to the allied healthcare professionals that are running the hospital, or again, depending on the delegates that join us, have connection opportunities with healthcare providers. So this is a huge hospital in Madrid, very well known around the world. Being in the capital, it's a great place to start your professional learning. And Carol, I know you've been to lots of learning institutions before all over the world. Why do you think it's important that we have something like a university engagement early in the program?
I think visiting an acute care hospital really is essential, regardless of what location the delegation is traveling to. I have not been to Spain, so this is also my first opportunity to go to Spain. And from what I've read about the La Paz University Hospital, it seems like it's going to be amazing in terms of its technology. But Nicola's right. It really, I think some of the hospitals that I have visited as part of these delegations, certainly sometimes we have seen significant differences between public and private. We have seen significant differences in hospitals on technology. Cuba was a great example of that, not necessarily having current technology, but having a healthcare system infrastructure that really maximized resources and resulted in tremendous gains. Yeah. So when we go to these acute care institutions, we often try to meet with people to talk about quality. What are some of the quality initiatives and how do they measure quality? We talk a lot about staffing and staffing ratios. We look at teams, whether or not we also look at electronic communication, how records are maintained and kept, what kind of electronic healthcare record system they might have. But oftentimes it's just a tour, and there are so many questions from both delegates. But again, I can't emphasize enough how much of these visits include give and take, where they're just as curious about our healthcare system and our acute care hospitals, and what things we might do that are the same and what things we do that are different. So the hospital tour is always an amazing opportunity, and it's a part of every healthcare delegation.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and a big part of these delegations and these journeys too are not just the professional delegates that come, but also their guests. And we haven't had a chance to speak about the guest program yet, but I think that's a big part of the journey, because it also encourages those that are in the healthcare profession to also bring, you know, their traveling companion with them, and realize that their traveling companion doesn't need to be, you know, brought to these lectures, and, you know, they can get a chance to explore the culture even more. So tell us a little bit about, Nicola, the guest program. And I'd love your insight, Carol, in regards to what your experience has been with guests traveling on Journey.
Yeah, I think, you know, the wonderful thing about these particular journeys is you are able to travel internationally with your spouse or partner or a travel companion, friend, and you can travel and explore this country together, but then you can have your professional learning and your cultural learning kind of, you know, forks in the road, and you go off and do your different things, but always returning at the end of each day to have dinners and evenings together. But the guest itinerary has been created so that when professional members are in the meetings with the hospitals, guests are taken care of, and they're taken care of with a private guide. So they're privately guided experiences that we've curated for you so as not to miss some of the highlights of a destination, let's say. So the Prado Museum is you know, beyond compare when it comes to museums in Europe, and a lot of people consider it like the jewel of Madrid as museums go. So whether you're a novice art kind of interest, or you're very experienced and you have a very critical eye, this is a museum that is going to be really exceptional for the guests. So you'll be taken there by a private guide, given a tour, and allowed some free time to explore at your leisure while everybody's at the La Paz Hospital.
I've been to the Prado Museum, and it's a beautiful museum. I'm more on the inexperienced art person, so I was just looking at the beautiful pictures. I couldn't really break down the brush strokes, but it was still a great experience. And so, Carol, tell me a little bit about, you know, the guest programs on some of your past journeys, and how that just adds to the overall layers of a professional experience like this.
It's always fun in the evening when the group comes back together to hear what the guests did during the day, and for the delegates to share the kinds of learning experiences they had. And I know on my early travels, I thought, gosh, I wonder if the delegates are going to have enough opportunities to do all these fun things themselves. And it's such a nice balance. Clearly, guests have a great time. And but I think truly the delegates are so enjoying their opportunities. You know, it's not easy to go to a foreign country and to have access to the healthcare system and to really see it from the inside out. So for me, I so enjoy my professional visits, but it's also very reassuring to know that any family members I might bring, although most of my family is a part of the healthcare field, that those who might come that choose not to participate in professional visits are having a great time on their own.
Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. I sense a little bit of jealousy in your voice in regards to all the fun that the guests have.
Well, my intention was to say you have a great time, and you also have lots of opportunities for cultural immersion. So it's to me the perfect blend.
Yeah. Perfect. And I think the other perfect one too is like having a professional member to share your insight and exchange those stories, because it's perspectives that you don't get if you're traveling independently together, say on a more leisure style kind of experience, which is wonderful in of itself. What you take away in terms of your impressions of a country are completely different from a journey such as this Nanda journey that's created, because you're getting deeper. You're getting a little bit deeper, and you're connecting with the people. And for our professional members that are considering joining us, there is an opportunity for a tax deduction as well, because this is entirely focused on professional development and career enrichment. So we try and go for the win-win wherever we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of that win-win, also we have a win-win for us to experience the country, but also the impact that we leave as well. I often like to say, you know, take your memories, but leave your footprints. And so this is one of those opportunities in the afternoon where we get a chance to visit a healthcare nonprofit and learn a little bit about the work that they do. I don't know if we have a nonprofit picked out just yet, but tell us a little bit about what this afternoon might entail, Nicola.
Yeah, and this one actually, everybody will join this one because I think there is a curiosity for all of us when we come. I grew up in England, so I grew up in the national health system, and then coming to the States, it was a big learning curve for me, and there were a lot of things that were surprising for me and difficult. So I think it's really interesting for people to compare what access to healthcare is there available, because it's something that we all need, we all want, but we don't all have the same equal opportunities to it. And the nonprofit that you'll be visiting, they're kind of a grassroots citizen effort. I mentioned earlier about this decree about no exclusivity to healthcare, like nobody can be excluded from healthcare and everybody should have access to it. But what's written isn't always, what's mandated isn't necessarily carried through. So this is an advocacy group that really region by region breaks down access to healthcare. So, and that's for all people. So everybody living in Spain, regardless of where they have come from, what their residency status is, or so you really get an opportunity to understand how can healthcare be administered for everybody as is decreed. And I think it'll be really interesting for everybody. They're doing great work. I did a little read up on them, and they're a great advocacy group, really making an impact.
That's amazing. And so after our day in Madrid experiencing the professional engagement, we leave for the Basque country of Spain, which many people may not be familiar with in regards to its beauty. So tell us a little bit about the Basque country of Spain. And as the itinerary creator between the two of you, why did you choose the Basque country as part of this itinerary?
Yeah, it's not as common for people to head north, right? A lot of people are probably more familiar with the coast of Barcelona and all of those coastal areas of Spain when you're considering to journey to Spain and take a vacation there. But the north is really fascinating because it has a history that's really unique. So it's kind of like in the United Kingdom, where I'm from. So I'm from England, and we're Europeans, but we're English first, right? So it's kind of that English first kind of perspective. And in the Basque country, you have something a little bit similar because they have their own language. The Basque region, depending on who you talk to, some people will say they're Basque or they're Spanish, right? Or they may be both. But there is this very independent identity in the north, in this Basque region. It has its own language. It has a little bit of autonomy as well, in terms of governance, government. So politically, there is lots to learn about, it's a region within Spain, but they very much consider themselves independent. And it's gorgeous. I mean, that's San Sebastian, the picture that you're looking at right now. And we will be taking you to San Sebastian. So it has beautiful green inland areas, lakes, mountains, beaches. So wineries, we're getting to that. Don't worry, we're not leaving out the wine. So it's gorgeous, but also it's super interesting because it has its own culture. It has its own identity. And there's lots of important conversations happening about what that looks like on a go-forward basis for the country. And I'm sure it also has an impact on its delivery of healthcare and access to healthcare and things like that too. So it's a really unique region that we like to bring unique areas that you might not necessarily seek out by yourself.
Wow. I mean, it looks like a gorgeous part of Spain. I've been to the southern part, so I did Valencia, and that brings up a good point. Do they use the THs in the northern part of Spain? Like instead of saying Barcelona, do they say Barcelona? My wife hates when I do that because she thinks I sound so pretentious.
Well,
But is it actually
I don't
THs?
know. The Basque language is a language all of its own. So
Yeah.
you're going to hear a dialect and a pronunciation that's very, very different than the rest of Spain.
Yeah. If I wanted to make my wife annoyed, I say Barcelona and Budapest. Like I try to make myself sound like a world traveler. On day 4, we do travel to the Basque country, leaving Madrid on our way up to Vitoria for about, is it a 3.5 hour drive? Is that
Yeah,
what I read?
3.5 hour. We'll have some stops along the way, as we always do when we're transitioning, to make sure that you get to take pictures, have a little rest break, and see something beautiful along the way.
Yeah, and so this will be our home for the next few nights. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that we'll be seeing in Vitoria on our way while we're there, some of the beautiful sceneries, some of the beautiful sights.
Vitoria is actually the capital of the Basque region. So the Basque region, predominantly 90% of Basque kind of inhabitants are in Spain, but also in that southern part of France too. So this area used to be, lakes and forests, and obviously with urban development and everything, there was encroachment into the wildlife, and so this is a conservancy park, and that they've kind of regenerated. So it kind of becomes like the lung of the area, right? There's lakes, lagoons, and you'll have this wonderful opportunity to walk around this park area, which is adjacent to a very urbanized historical city. So I think it's a really nice way to take a breather, have some nice kind of relaxing outdoor regenerating time, and also for you to see something of the natural beauty of the area as well.
Absolutely. And then afterwards, we check into our hotel and we have dinner at a local restaurant. So another way that you can support the local businesses in the region is not necessarily eating at the hotel, although I'm sure a lot of the hotel restaurants, have great food. I know we stay in locally owned hotels as well, but many of the restaurants are locally owned as well. Going out and experiencing the food in local regions. For one, used to be a very picky eater. So, going to travel gives you an opportunity to taste the food around the world. And so Spanish food, I do love Spanish food. So this is something that, I've always experienced and loved. Tell us, Carol, I mean, I know I'm putting you on a spot. I know we haven't talked about this, about going to local restaurants. What do you like about, kind of going to local restaurants and experiencing the culture through the eyes of locals?
I would say, first of all, I'm a foodie. Whenever I travel anywhere, one of the first things I do is sign up for a local tasting or food tour. And in all of these journeys, the food has been so memorable. And to me, it's an important part of the trip. Having the opportunity to eat like a local and to eat at some of these local places of interest. And oftentimes the restaurants that we go to have some history behind them, or some local story. Or even, I think in Ireland, seeing some local dancing, or seeing in Cuba, going to the jazz clubs and seeing the local performers. So food is a big part of the experience for me. And I know that's not everyone, but you're absolutely right. The food is incredible. And I think the restaurants have been carefully selected so that they really do give you a feel for the culture and a kind of a local cultural immersion.
Yeah, lots of tapas on this journey, lots of family style dining on this journey, lots of little tapas style. And I know we have a cooking class, which is always such a fun part of every journey, because everybody's personality comes out completely differently in a cooking class, and you're learning so much about the culture. And so you're right, Michael, choosing the restaurants is important for us, and supporting the local community and the small mom and pop kind of organizations, as well as maybe some of the larger restaurants, of course, needed to accommodate a group. But as much as possible, we're working with independent business owners like ourselves here at Nanda Journeys, and that's how we like to support the economy and keep the money as local as possible as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the local traveling has made me much of a foodie as well. It's turned this picky eater into a foodie as well. So if you are a little bit of a picky eater, get out there, see the world. Your taste buds will grow, as well as your view of the world. So you had mentioned winery, Nicola, earlier on in this. I'm sorry?
I was just going to add that for anybody who has specific dietary needs, the restaurants that we attend are very accommodating. So while there might be a fixed menu, or typically a choice of a couple different things, but both, if you have any specific dietary needs, Nanda and the restaurants that we participate with will be able to accommodate your needs.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Carol.
Yes, great point. So even the pickiest eater can still stay a little picky.
Yes, all are welcome.
Yes, all are welcome. So you had mentioned wines, and the northern part of Spain is very well known for the wine that they produce. So tell us a little bit about, even though this is a professional journey, we still got to make some time for fun and games. So tell us a little bit about our afternoon here at the winery.
Most definitely. Well, Carol, you and I, we're both in California, so we're very fortunate to be surrounded by beautiful wines. But Rioja is one of the most famous wine areas in Spain, and I know the earliest grapes and discovery of winemaking goes back to Phoenician times, right? So it has a very long, deep history. And you'll be in the Rioja area, so the red wine region. Tempranillo is like the dominant grape for those of you that really love your red wines. Tempranillo is used as a blended red wine kind of base as well. So we have an entire kind of morning, lunch experience at a winery that uses modern techniques, but also the old traditional winery techniques as well. So you'll get a tour, you'll get a tasting, and you'll have lunch. So this will be a really fun experience to really enjoy Spanish wine. We don't have access to it very easily here on the West Coast. So it's always nice for me when I go to Europe to be able to go visit those wineries. So beautiful day, nice, casual, easy pace with some really lovely wine options for you to choose and maybe take home. I don't know, maybe.
Absolutely. And then the evening we transfer back to Vitoria for a free night. A lot of people think, what am I going to do with all my free time? I feel like adding that extra opportunity to kind of craft your own itinerary in the evening is always a great luxury, because some people, want to stay in the hotel and want to relax. Other people want to go out and explore, and many people want to just go shopping. So this gives them the chance to do all three, depending on what their desires are. So this free evening in Vitoria provides an opportunity to grab dinner on your own or with a traveling companion. But also those that are traveling by themselves, free time can sometimes be a little bit of an intimidating factor because they don't know who they're going to hang out with or what they're going to do. So tell us a little bit about if someone is looking to travel as a solo traveler, what do they do during their free time? Is there group activities? How does that work during free time?
I'll answer that. By this point in the journey, nobody feels like an individual anymore. Mm-hmm. We have really melded into small group and large group. And these free evenings are wonderful because after we've been in a place, even for a day or two, there are certain things that we see that we know we want to go back and see more of, or other things that are not on the formal itinerary. So, shouldn't be any issue in terms of finding someone to go somewhere with. But if the group's small enough, we almost always travel together and pick something that we want to do that's fun. And
yeah, that's always what I love about it. I know whenever I travel and when, Sandy, again, I know she's on, and we were just in Colombia, and for the most part, we all just hang out together. Like you say, everybody, that first day, people might not know each other. And that second day, we're getting warmed up. And by the third day, everybody's like best family friends, and they don't want to not spend time together. So that's one of the things I love is seeing that blossoming camaraderie. It happens really fast. So no, free time typically means where are we all hanging out together next is typically how it goes.
We're officially at the part of the trip where we have to get people to stop talking so we can tell them where we're going as opposed to getting them to talk. On day 6, we leave on a trip to Pamplona. Don't worry, we're not running with the bulls for this tour. Although that is on my bucket list. So I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to do that, but Pamplona and running with the bulls is on my bucket list. But this day trip to Pamplona also has an opportunity to do some additional professional engagement at a local hospital in Pamplona. So Nicola, tell us a little bit about this itinerary aspect. And Carol, I'd love your insight as well in regards to some of the things that you've experienced in the past.
Yeah, so Pamplona, of course, gorgeous part of the country. But this is, again, another large hospital. I think they have like 1,000 beds and almost 7,000 staff. So as far as diversity goes, going to a healthcare facility like this, again, opens up the opportunities for having conversations with people that align with the delegates in terms of their professional interests. So whilst we do refer to it as a nursing and healthcare journey, it's really an interprofessional healthcare journey. So anybody involved in healthcare delivery, whatever spectrum or whatever field you are mastered in, let us know, and then we can tailor every experience to that for you. So it's a large hospital. I think it serves like 500,000 people. So it's a tertiary hospital as well for a broader area. There's very, very large rural communities, of course, especially outside of the major cities. So they need to have their hub, major healthcare facility. And this is one of those areas. So large hospital, many different specialties, and we'll be spending half a day here, which half a day usually turns into just slightly a little more because those conversations run deeper, and that's okay because we want everybody to get the most out of it.
I guess I would also add that on these kinds of visits, not only do the delegates' specific requests or needs or desires influence how we spend our time there at the hospital, but that and it does vary by site, but oftentimes there is a real exchange of information. As much as we feel like we want to learn from them, I always have to step back and remember that there are things they want to learn from us as well.
Yeah.
So the opportunity really is for collaboration and for discussion and for learning. And by this point too, we'll have a hospital from Madrid to compare and see what the differences are and the similarities, because we often find that if we have the opportunity to visit more than one acute care institution in a country, that there may be some significant differences even between those different regions of the country.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a great point. What's similar and what's different? It's a great opportunity. And again, the guests have something to do for that half a day as well, while the professional engagement is happening. In this particular tour, getting a chance to walk in Hemingway's footsteps, because Hemingway was inspired very much so by Pamplona and some of the things that Pamplona has. Getting a chance to see the bull ring as well, I think, is a part of the walking tour too.
Yep.
But tell us a little bit about some of those sites that we get a chance to see, Nicola, that inspired Hemingway to write some of his, his most well-known books.
Yeah, for those of you that, and I know Deshaun, I don't know if you're here with us right at this moment, but I know you're registered to join us and you went to Cuba, so you saw the Hemingway, and Carol, you probably did too. You saw kind of Hemingway's Cuba. So this is similar, exploring, the cafes and the bars. We know that he frequented bars on a regular basis, and you'll get to see where he was influenced, so Is It Sun Also Rises, I think, is one of the books that he wrote that was very much influenced by this particular area. So yeah, you'll do a guided tour with a specialist who can tell you all about Hemingway's time here and the backstory. So that, again, make notes, all of you guests, because your professional members are going to want to know all about that when you come back at the end of the day. So really interesting. And you're right, they will see the bull ring as well. But yeah, no running with the bulls. Not on the Nanda journey. Sorry, Michael, you're going to have to find that one elsewhere. Sorry.
I don't know if my wife will let me go to Pamplona or Barcelona for that matter. Day 7, we take a day trip out to San Sebastian. Another great opportunity for us to explore the coast. This is the northern coast of Spain, but also another opportunity to have a professional engagement while we're up there as well. Tell us a little bit about, this seems to be not necessarily a hospital, but tell us a little bit about how this professional engagement could be a little bit different from the hospital experiences that we might have experienced earlier in the journey.
Yeah, I think Carol mentioned earlier, diversity in terms of, looking at the delivery of healthcare is really important. And this is an institute that is really focused on prevention, cure, and treatment of cancer. So again, you're getting a very different perspective in terms of their approach. And I think the preventative element of it, I don't know from your perspective, Carol, probably super interesting, but that's something that they seem in their materials to give really heavy weight to, is that, preventative screening. And I think it'd be really interesting for your professional members to learn about that.
I would add, I agree, because I think truly primary healthcare is rare. And finding countries that do it and do it well, I think there's a lot that we can learn even in this country from that kind of primary healthcare exposure.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And again, while they're doing the professional engagement, the guests enjoy another privately guided walking tour of the beautiful city of San Sebastian. Afterwards, though, rather than kind of coming together for a free afternoon, we go on a cooking workshop I know that you've told me how to pronounce this word a few times, Nicola. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But they go shopping first. They get a chance to have a glass of wine. They get a chance to walk the city streets and really experience the beautiful city. But then they go on a cooking workshop. Tell us a little bit about what they have in store for this amazing afternoon experience.
Yeah, pinchos is how it's pronounced. I think I mispronounced it earlier today when we checked in, but pinchos. So the H's are very, very prevalent apparently here. So this is like small Spanish snacks, so tapas snacks, and you'll have a workshop, and as you say, doing some shopping. And this is always just a fun time. You know, most of the journey is we really do try and incorporate this element of cooking because it releases this creativity and artistry and fun side of us that we really don't always tap into. I know, again, I was just back from Colombia, and we had a cooking workshop, and it's just so much fun preparing, and the time goes so fast, you know, before you know it, like 3 hours have passed, and you only think you're just getting going. So I think any of the journeys, one of the pillars is always that, whether it's art or cooking or dancing, having something where our brain can work in a completely different way allows us to enjoy our environment in a really different way, I think.
Absolutely. Food is such a big pillar of any Nanda journey, any travel experience. So getting a chance to actually cook it and hands-on, and it's not just a demonstration, you're actually putting your hands to work and going shopping for food. It really brings, you know, the beauty of the culture through the food to life. On day 8, we return from the northern part of Spain into Madrid. Upon arrival, we check into our hotel, but we have a farewell dinner, just like the welcome dinner. I feel like the farewell dinner is such a great bookend to creating an amazing journey and ending an amazing journey. Carol, tell us a little bit about, you know, the farewell dinner, your experience, and why it's such an important part of the journey itself.
You know, the farewell dinner is such an important part to the end of the delegation, because typically at the farewell dinner, delegates will share, you know, what was the most meaningful part of the journey for them and what they learned and what they plan to take back or how it might influence their practice. I would also just add that, you know, 9 days, 7 nights, 9 days doesn't sound like a long time, but you do make lifelong friendships during these journeys and collaborations. And I look at this circle that used to be pretty small that's now pretty big from people that I've had the opportunity to meet on these delegations. So the farewell dinner is a time not only to learn with and from each other, but also to actually say farewell to new friends and colleagues. And it's always an amazing dinner too. And I said before, I was a foodie, I'll say it again. You know, you will never be hungry on these delegations. No. So it's amazing.
That's true. And also, you know, the bonds that you created with your guide as well. You'll be, you know, this is a time to acknowledge and thank and share experiences with your guide, because the guide that you're with is going to be with you from the day you arrive to the day you leave. And that bond is really deep as well. And you learn so much from your guide. So we don't talk about it enough, I don't think, but that's a whole other side to your journey, because they're telling you about their personal life and their growing up and their experiences in the country. And so you're constantly getting that infusion of local experiences, both from the things we've planned, but also from your hosts and your local guides that navigate you through each of the experiences as well.
Yeah, and Nicola, I just clarify, because I know I was kind of confused about that my very first trip. You have a delegation leader, which it will be me, and that will be really focusing more on some of the professional aspects of the trip and those site visits and helping to organize some of those conversations and content. But our local guides that Nicola is talking about, these are people who live and are immersed in the community and are such a wealth of information about the country that we're visiting. And they also can sometimes act in the role of interpreter if that becomes necessary for, you know, a certain part of the journey. But these local guides, I just can't sing their praises enough. They're carefully selected and they are fabulous to work with. They're also very flexible. Sometimes we'll have I can remember in Hungary, one delegate who said, I have to have a donut from a certain certain donut shop that she had read about in Sunset Magazine, and he went out of his way to make sure that the bus stopped by for her to have that. So, I just think that they're there to serve you and to help us learn and to provide so much background information that's incredibly helpful.
Yeah, that's so very true.
That I often equate it to you traveling with a friend overseas. They love their country, and all they want you to do is love it as much as they do.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of show you their favorite places to eat, their favorite stores to shop in. It really is a great way to experience a destination when you have someone who's actually a local leading the tour. On day 9, the journey comes to an end, and we have to fly home, taking with us the photos and the memories and the new connections and the new friends we've made along the way. So for now, for those of you that are interested and want to sign up, you're all excited now. It's easy to sign up. Again, our delegation goes from May 24th to June 1st. Although it does say nursing, this is an interprofessional journey. So if any profession in the healthcare industry is welcome to join us. Please feel free, if you're interested or you know someone who might be interested, feel free to pass this along to them. It's $62.99 per person, land and air, for double occupancy. If you have a roommate, if you're looking to book your own airfare, it's about $1,000 more affordable for land only. If you're traveling as a single supplement, as a single traveler, there's this $999 single supplement, as my laptop's falling off of my stand. Also, if you're interested in putting your deposit down, there's a $500 per person deposit, at which point within 14 days, if you are interested in insurance, which we are always highly recommending, that insurance is due 14 days within your deposit. That deposit is fully refundable up until December 25th, Christmas Day. So the reason we bring that up is because this journey is limited to 20 participants. It is a very popular journey, and the one thing that we hate to do here at Nanda Journeys is to put you on a wait list. So if you're interested in signing up, please put your deposit down. It is fully refundable up until December 25th, minus that $95 service fee. So all of your money gets brought back to you except for the $95 service fee. So it's better to have your seat and not need it than to need that seat and us telling you it's not available. So if you're interested in signing up, sign up as soon as you can. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat there on the right. We'll be happy to answer them. I had one of my questions, my own, which I meant to ask in the beginning, but I want to ask now, and I'll start with you, Carol. The main question is, why Spain? Why did you decide that Spain was a destination you wanted to visit this time?
Well, I have to admit I haven't been there, so I'm always looking for what other places are left for me to see in the world, and there are many. But I think because Spain's healthcare system is unique, and I think we tend to look at Europe and say, and to think that many European healthcare organizations are the same. But the reality is that many countries, particularly when we look at public and private and national healthcare services, they vary a lot. Mm-hmm. So I just think that there's a wealth of new knowledge to be gained by looking at the healthcare system in Spain.
Yeah. I would also say that we chose these dates for a couple of different reasons too, so that our colleagues in academia could join as well. Hopefully it's at the end of their your academic year, but also a perfect time to experience Spain before it gets too warm, right? So you should enjoy really pleasant weather. And the airfare that Michael mentioned, we have group designated flights from New York, but as Carol will tell you, based on the West Coast, we also work with our guests, depending on wherever you are, we'll work with you to coordinate connecting flights that join up with the group seamlessly and take care of that. So just know that you'll be taken care of wherever you live in the United States. There may be a small supplement for that based on there being a difference in the airfare. But yeah, we're here to help you. We don't abandon anybody to their travel plans. If you want to do them by yourself, of course, that's great, and we welcome that. But if you prefer to be supported, then we're here to help provide the guidance and the recommendations to have a good flight experience too.
And I see that Kathleen Taylor, I think this is Kathleen from Sigma that I know. I hope so. Hi, Kathleen. It's nice to see your name there. You asked a question about the travel insurance, and having just recently signed up my husband, I can tell you that as soon as I signed him up, an email arrived with a recommended travel insurance company with all the details. It was very easy to sign him up on that.
Yeah, and we have two companies that we I guess you could say preferred, but it's just based on experience. I have a relationship with them that goes back many, many, many years. So I know that I have somebody that I can rely on. If my guests have challenges, then I know I have somebody that I can rely on, and that's Travic and Travelex. And we chose them for their policies. If you're doing side-by-side comparisons, they might not be the cheapest, but they definitely offer the best coverage, the best customer service, we're here to help you with that. But you're welcome to choose your own health insurance, but we've had great experience with both of those organizations.
Awesome.
So thank you for the question.
It looks like, yeah, absolutely. It looks like Kathleen was from Sigma. There you go, Carol. If you do have any other questions, please feel free. Never hesitate to reach out to the Nanda team. You can reach us at nandajourneys.com or call the phone number that you see on the screen, or shoot us an email at info@nandajourneys.com, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. With that being said, we have come to the end of our hour talk around Spain. So I will leave the final words to the two of you. Carol, final words, what would you leave the delegation with, those listening that should join you in Spain?
I hope that you join us. You will have an amazing trip, and I can't reiterate it enough. It sounds like a paid infomercial, but I mean it from my heart. I have had the opportunity to work with Nicola and the Nanda staff and lead a number of these delegations. They really are just extremely well done trips. And I think that not only will you leave feeling like you were culturally immersed and are a better global citizen, but you'll also have the opportunity to learn so much more about the healthcare system in another country, what works, what hasn't, and to collaborate with other professionals. And I just enjoy each one of these trips very, very much. And I hope that you can join me.
The final word, Nicola, belongs to you. Anything you want to share, parting words you want to share with our delegation or our viewers today?
Well, Carol, I wanted to thank you for your friendship, your leadership, and your collaboration. It's we still have to meet yet. We live in the same state, and we haven't met personally yet, but I feel like I know you and Tom so well already. But thank you for your leadership. Michael, thank you for pulling this conversation together for us and for everybody joining us today and who might listen on the recording. I welcome your questions, and I know Carol would welcome your questions too. Carol's been very gracious in talking to anybody that's considering this journey or has questions about the professional delegation. She's got lots of experiences you've just heard. So come join us in Spain, and thanks for being here.
And Nicola, will you put the names of those insurance companies in the chat for Kathleen?
Yes, I did. Did it not show up? I put them in there. Did it not show up?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
Did it show up?
And I did not see it.
No problem. I will. And Kathleen, I'll send it to you directly in an email as well. I'll send you both of those links, and they'll take you specifically to Travic and Travelex website as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. This has been such a great conversation about one of my favorite countries in the world. For those of you that joined us on the webinar, if you're watching the recording, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us talk about Spain, and hopefully you get a chance to join us. We appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you in Spain, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Nanda Journey. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.